Good morning. Happy Friday. It is the end of the week. How exciting is that? Come and say hi. If you're here watching live, come and say hi. If you're watching this on replay, give me a hashtag replay. Tell me how are things? How's your week been? So I wanted to talk today about how you can use your phone to warm your audience. It's quite a good one, this one. I quite like this. It's quite a good topic. So, when we talk about using your phone, morning, Kate. When we talk about using your phone and using your phone for sales, a lot of people immediately get the kind of gut wrenching reaction of, "Oh my god, I hate selling. I hate selling to people face to face. I hate talking to people on the phone, so I'm not going to do it." But selling to somebody on the phone is just like selling to anybody anywhere. Yeah, it has been a really busy week, hasn't it, Kate? I don't know what it is about this week in particular. I feel like I haven't stopped either. Morning, Kieran. So when we talk about selling on the phone, it shouldn't be different really to selling in any other way, whether it's selling on your social media, whether it's selling on your through your emails. We sell on the phone in exactly the same way, and that's we don't just find somebody randomly out of the blue and immediately pitch to them. But that's the expectation. That's what people think. And we think that because most people have experience of that. Most people have experience of someone calling them and immediately trying to sell to them, immediately trying to get their phone numbers off of them or their credit card details off them, sorry. So as a result, we kind of get a bit kind of tense about that sort of stuff. One of the reasons why we don't like that so much is because more often than not, when somebody cold calls you, you haven't given them permission to have your phone number, or you have somewhere down the line, but possibly not to be used in that particular way. So that's one of the reasons why this becomes really difficult. But I want you to think about, if you went to a party, if you went to a business party, okay, not networking, but just a standard business party, you would not dream of walking up to somebody and saying, "Hi, I'm Paul. I can help you with your sales. It's going to cost you £500 a month. Give me your credit card details." I mean, you wouldn't say that anyway because you wouldn't be me. So that's probably quite a big reason not to say that. But you wouldn't just immediately go up to somebody and start selling yourself. We don't do that with our email marketing either. The good practice with email marketing is to warm your audience up first. When it comes to social media, there's a whole realm of people out there that will immediately send you a DM and start selling to you. But again, it's not good practice. It's not how we try to work. So we're going to take the same philosophy through to talking on the phone. A business party as in at number 10 Downing Street. I mean, I couldn't possibly comment on that, Kieran. But I do quite like wine and cheese. So yeah, everyone needs a business party. Party. Definitely Friday. So when you think about sales calls, calling your clients, think about that side of it. Think about, it's not about just trying to make the sale. We want to disconnect ourselves from the financial part of this process. So if you decide to call a client today and in your head you think to yourself, I have to sell today, then you're going to come across in that kind of pushy, sleazy way of just trying to get money out of people. So we try and disconnect ourselves from that a little bit when we're doing these calls. It's about your ideal client. It's about that person, what they want, what they need, and how you can help them. It's not about trying to sell to them. Of course, we want to sell to them, and longer term, we want to get the sale. But would you rather call somebody and annoy them and for them to never ever want to work with you again, or nurture somebody until they're ready to buy from you in 6 months' time? So this can be a slow burn process, but it's totally worth doing. So using sales calls or using calls to warm your audience can be incredibly valuable. Now, I kind of hesitated then when I said sales calls, and the reason I hesitated is because what I want you all to do is, anyone who's thinking of doing this, I want you to reframe the words that you use. So I don't want you to start talking about sales calls. I want you to think of a different way to phrase this. So an engagement call, or a customer service call, or a check-in call, or whatever you want to call it, to get you away from the mindset of this being a sales call. Because although it is a sales call, I don't want you to feel like you have to go for the sale immediately. This is a process. It takes time, and we want it to take time so that you can properly warm these people up. Now, in my experience, it only takes 2 calls before we can get to the sale. I tend to get to the sale on the second call, and I'm not saying I don't get to the sale on the first call either. Like, there are times when, we start the process and it turns into more salesy, and we start to go down the route of the sale, and that's absolutely fine. But we don't go in with that intention, because when we have that intention, we're just going to drive it in there if the person's not ready for it, and that's not what we want at all. So the way we run these sales calls, or the way we run these let's call them warming calls, shall we? Warming up calls for today. I'll probably call it a sales call again in about 30 seconds. So when we run these calls, what we want you to do is collect these. You need to collect people's phone numbers. So that's the first step, really. How do we collect phone numbers for our audience? We're going to talk about this in more detail kind of over the coming weeks, but for kind of the basics of this is, any time you would collect an email address, I want you to start asking for phone numbers instead. Or not instead, but I want you to start collecting phone numbers as well. Hey, Birdie. Yeah, a connection call. Brilliant terminology. So I want you to start collecting phone numbers as well as the email addresses. So it could be a lead magnet that you put out there. It could be a quiz. It could be a 5-day challenge. It could be a webinar. Morning, Johnny. I'm gonna have to put Johnny's comment up. Just had feedback on your work with my audience. Love your work. He's very impressed. Yeah, we've been running the sales process for Johnny, and we are doing exactly this with Johnny this week. We've been doing audience engagement, and it's just, there's nothing like it. I still love doing it, and when you actually get to hear the feedback from these people, when it's not about sales, we're not trying to sell to them. We just want to talk to them. We want to see where they are and how we can help them further. It's such a powerful experience. So we're collecting their phone numbers right at the very beginning. A coffee and a chinwag from Kieran. Now, these people know, like, and trust you already. Okay, these people are coming to you asking for your help. So if they're downloading a lead magnet that you've put out there and they're giving you their phone number, it's because they need your help. They are telling you they need your help. It's not like, the old conservatory salespeople. Okay, when I lived in London, I lived in a second floor flat, and I had several calls of people trying to sell me conservatories. I mean, where do you think I'm going to put it? Floating somewhere on the side of my building, So it's not like those old-fashioned cold calls. These people know you. They know you already. They've given you their phone number. They've taken something from you for free because they have expressed an interest in working with you. And all we're doing now is just checking in with them to see where they are. So it is that simple. So the way I would run this myself is, let's say they've just come off of a webinar. I would give them a call, and there are 3 questions that I would ask them immediately to gauge where they are, to see where we go next. I would ask them what the reason was for signing up to my webinar. So why did you sign up to this webinar? What was your reasons for coming into it? What did you get out of it? Now, the way we ask this question can be really important, because if you leave it open-ended, you're going to be on the phone forever. And we want these calls to be relatively short. So I would always say to them, what was your biggest takeaway from the webinar? That gives them the opportunity to just give you one piece of feedback, one thing that worked for them. And also, because we're framing it in that, what was your biggest takeaway? We're not saying, did you like the webinar? What was your biggest takeaway? It's opening you up to get a positive response. So from a social proof point of view, this is so incredibly valuable because you're going to be given big takeaways, big breakthroughs that people have had, big light bulb moments. They're going to give you them immediately. People will still tell you at this point if they didn't like it. So be prepared. You will get people who will say to you, nothing. I didn't take anything away from this. Those people are few and far between, but they do exist. And that's fine, because that's what we want. We want, the positive and the negative feedback as well. I remember, just interestingly with this as a slight side note, when I was working in theatre, I remember having a press night, and one of the actors was walking around being like, look at this review. I got this review that said I was amazing, that I was really good singer. They really liked my performance. And the director turned to this guy and said, did you read the review that said you were tone deaf? And everyone just kind of like froze and was like, what? And this actor said, I don't read the negative reviews. And the director said to him, well, then you shouldn't read the positive reviews. If you want feedback, then you need to listen to everybody's feedback. Doesn't mean you have to act on everybody's feedback. But if you're out there prepared to sing and dance about the positives that you get, you also have to take on the negatives, because that's how we learn, right? That's how we learn. That's how we grow, by getting rounded feedback. Now, it's not like just walking down the street and asking a generic person to tell you what they think of you or what they think about your product. It's not like The Apprentice. These people are a targeted audience. They've chosen to come to you. They've chosen you for advice or to help them. So it's just part of that process, getting genuine, honest feedback from them. So once I've asked them what their big takeaway was, the final question I would ask is, what's your plan going forward to implement the work that we've talked about? So making them give you a commitment to follow the steps, to follow the process. Remember, we said they've come into your world because they need your help, but they need to implement it. You can't give them everything on a 1-hour webinar or even join a 5-day challenge. They still have to go away and implement the strategy. So what is the plan to implement that strategy? Now, this is where it can lead into more of a sales call, and you've got to judge this for yourself. So if at this point, if I think about selling Helen's work, for example, so when I help Helen sell the LinkedIn Mastermind, at this point in the call, if somebody said to me, I just need accountability, I can't do this without accountability, then of course we would then start talking about the next steps. This when we talk to people about how they're going to implement this strategy, I would always say to them, if I'm not the right person for you, if I'm not the right person to help you, which is absolutely fine, how are you going to implement the strategy? So we can always kind of lead them in that sort of sales direction, so that they are thinking about us, so we are the ones that are front and foremost in their memory and in their mind for coming out with this solution. But we're not saying to them, buy my thing. It's about them making the decision. More often than not, at this point, people will bring you into it because they want to justify to you why they want to take the next steps or why they don't want to take the next steps. So we'd ask them that, how they're going to implement the strategy, what they're going to do. And then the final thing we would do is always, always, always give yourself permission to follow up. So I talk about this, and I'll be talking about this next week on the masterclass, about giving yourself permission. Sales is all about permission. Get their permission to do stuff, but at the same time, give yourself permission to take the next steps. So I would always round off one of these calls by giving myself permission to follow up with them. So they tell you what their strategy is, and I would say to them, okay, I'm going to give you a call in 2 weeks. I'm going to see how you're getting on, and I'm going to see if I can support you any further. So already there's that accountability in there. They need to take the action because they know I'm going to call them and I'm going to speak to them and they're going to need to do the work. This is now going to get them thinking about whether they can actually do the work on their own or whether they need more help, and that's fine. We would then follow up with them, and the follow-up would be the more sales call, where we'd look at actually driving them down that route. Of course, with all of this stuff, there are many, many variations to these calls, and I can't teach you all of it right now, but this is just a real kind of basic introduction. When I do my Pilot Your Sales Bootcamp, which is a 5-day intensive program, we talk a lot about how all these different kinds of calls can work and how you judge the responses from people when they're giving you them. So, if this is somebody who's done the challenge, let's say it's a 5-day challenge, and this is someone who's doing it for the second time, then we're going to be much more salesy at this point. We're going to be much more honest with them and saying to them, so you made this promise last time to do this work. You clearly didn't do the work. You've come back onto the challenge again. What's going to be different this time? What is going to change? Because clearly you can't do the work on your own. So you need help. Who's going to help you? It's like basic coaching sales calls. It's just question after question after question after question. We just keep asking questions, making them think. So this is a really powerful way to get people engaged, get talking to people, find out about your audience, but offer them genuine solutions, offer them genuine help. Now, I'm not saying we coach them for free. This isn't a discovery call. This is purely you talking to them, finding out where they are, and finding out if they have a plan for the next steps. And if they don't have a plan, then we can suggest next steps. And I'll talk about that on another video. But for the purpose of getting comfortable, picking up the phone and talking to clients, this is more than enough. Give someone a call, find out how they found you, how they came into your world, how they're getting on implementing the stuff that they've learned from you, and what their plans are to continue growing going forwards. Really, really simple, basic stuff. It's almost customer service style, but with a little bit more structure to get people into the right place so that they're in a position to buy from you when the time is right. So if we engage our audience in the right way, we can convert them further down the line. And that's ultimately what the whole point of this is. As much as we try to avoid sales are inevitable. Without sales, you don't have money. Without money, you don't have a business. So we need to embrace sales, but in a way that's right for you and your audience. So there we go. Today's tip of the day, not as short a video as this sometime is, but hopefully that was really useful. If any of you do go out and make any sales calls today, which I would advise that you all do, I'm about to go make one as soon as I finish this. Then let me know how it goes. Either feel free to send me a DM. Let me know how you get on with it. Or comment on one of these videos or on one of my many posts that's going out at the moment. And if any of you are around next week on Tuesday at 12 o'clock, I'm going to be hosting my Pilot Sales Masterclass, where we'll go into a bit more detail about this, about getting comfortable on the phone, kind of just the basics of picking up the phone and engaging your clients in order to convert them further down the line. So if any of you are fearful about picking up the phone or don't even know where to start, then come and join me and Helen Pritchard, 12 o'clock on Tuesday. The link is somewhere around this video, above it, probably. And we'll give you some advice. We're also going to give you kind of a behind-the-scenes look at Helen's last launch off of her 5-day challenge. So we'll talk to you about how we ran that, how we did the audience engagement beforehand, how we then converted everybody afterwards. So have a fantastic rest of your day, everybody. And if I don't speak to you beforehand, have a great weekend. See you soon.